Kingdom Keeper's Inheritance, Villain's Realm Book 2 features the children of the original Kingdom Keepers as they continue to fight villains in the Disney magical kingdoms. Hi, I'm Dan Skinner, and welcome to the Kids Bookshelf. Ahead, we'll explore the book, and I'll talk with the author about the inspiration behind it. I requested and was provided with a copy of the book, but this video is not sponsored. Ridley Pearson is the award-winning best-selling author of over 50 novels. His series include The Kingdom Keepers and Peter and the Starcatchers, which he co-wrote with Dave Barry. He joins us to talk about Kingdom Keeper's Inheritance, Villain's Realm, Book 2. Ridley, welcome to the Kids Bookshelf.
Thanks, Dan.
Well, for those who aren't familiar with these Kingdom Keepers series of books, before we talk about this new version of it, tell us about the series.
Oh, the series has been so much fun. I was given an opportunity to go inside the Disney parks after they're closed, late at night, to do my research for them. And so I've spent 30 times I've been in, and I've spent many hours walking the attractions, and then they turn them on for me and I get to ride them. And I just get plain spooked out. And so I tried to write an imaginative, exciting series for young readers that would pit the Disney good characters against the Disney villains. There's all these hijinks going on after we leave the parks. They sort of sneak out of their attractions, and one side is trying to turn the magic dark, and one side is trying to keep it as it is. And in all the Kingdom Keepers books, I throw these 5 kids into the mix to try to be on the good side. So it's teamwork and excitement and nonstop adventure, and I have had a blast with it.
So have you always been a Disney fan?
No, I actually came to it very late in life. In fact, the Kingdom Keepers came out of that. Disney was very nice and offered me a VIP weekend in their parks. And I took my family. I had never been. My parents just weren't take your kids to Disney people. And it was the most amazing weekend you could ever have with your kids. And I wrote a thank you note to Disney Books, who had arranged it all. And eventually I made a call to Disney Books. And they asked me what my most favorite part of it was. And I said, unlike these parks that just try to make you nauseous, the thing about Disney is every time I was on a ride, I sensed a beginning, a middle, and an end to a story. And the editor on the other end said, that's so great because they write books about these before they build them. Would you ever like to write a book for us? And off we went.
So the original series, you had these Kingdom Keepers, and now with this Inheritance version, you're talking about the kids of those original keepers. So tell us about what's going on.
We've stretched out a little, Dan.
Yeah. So tell us about what's going on with these new kids. And among other things, they're living in a new Epcot. So tell us a bit about that.
Right. And that's really at the heart of it, Dan, is that I had written 10 books. We've sold millions of copies of these, and Disney wanted one last series. And I didn't want to repeat myself. There's a lot of Disney lore and history that the Imagineers have shared with me over these 20 years, one of which is that before he passed on, Walt had envisioned Epcot as a city of about 40,000 people, kind of a Silicon Valley before Silicon Valley existed. They'd be well-educated, and they'd be, focused on technology and improving the world. And I thought for my last series, I wanted to make that come true. So I set the book in 2040, and I have 40,000 people living around Epcot. And then I realized I can't have my Kingdom Keepers in there because they're all 45 years old now. So I thought, well, if they've married each other, which would be super fun for everybody in the first 7 books, then it can be the Disney Kingdom Keepers kids. And Eli and his friends discover that they can draw portals from the Disney Showcase, the World Showcase in Epcot, and they can go into Disney parks like Shanghai and Paris and Hong Kong. So the kids in the book are world jumping and still running into dangerous villains. But I've just had so much fun doing it. I've been to many of the international parks to research for the books, and hopefully Eli and everyone stay safe.
Well, in this new book, who is the big bad they're dealing with this time?
The big bad they're dealing with is 8 times what you and I are. It's Ursula. So she has her 8 tentacles, and she also has Vanessa, who is her alter ego, and she turns out to be a formidable villain. Mixed into that is the lore that when Walt Disney was driving ambulances in World War I, that he came in my world, Dan, he came across sort of a mystical nomadic woman who sensed his creativity and said, I'm going to give you some special ink, and this ink is going to help with your creativity. And that's the ink that he drew Oswald with, and the early Mickeys and Minnies. And in the Inheritance books, that ink plays a huge role because it's extremely powerful, and it still exists, and Ursula wants all of her 8 tentacles on that ink.
And in this version that you've started, this new series, there is a plot underway to basically create a villain's realm in all of the parks, and this is what the kids want to prevent. Tell us more about that.
Well, that's underway, which is scaring the heck out of me as an Overtaker-fearer, but it just seemed inevitable that at some point Disney would highlight all their villains together, and that I wouldn't have been surprised if they build a giant attraction dedicated to their villains, and they would call it the Villain's Realm. What they don't understand, the executives in Disney, that the magic is real, and that if they build something like that, they're only going to make the villains stronger. So they do, and in Inheritance 1, which came out last year, called The Shimmer, that villain's realm turns to be sort of a hotbed of bad activity, so they shut it down. And Ursula and her minions want to get all of them that opened again and built again. So the actual physical villain realms become a big, big part of this series.
Besides being an engaging story, what do you hope readers are going to take from the book?
Oh, I love that part. I mean, I get so many wonderful emails from the kids and their parents, and I think probably the biggest message I'd like kids to get is that working as a team is far superior to trying to do things just by yourself. I come from a music background. I played in bands for years, and it doesn't work if everyone in the band isn't pulling his or her weight. Same thing with sports. And I really think in today's business environment, especially, you need to learn how to work as a team. So team play is emphasized in all the books. Friendship is emphasized. Just because you can have the answer doesn't mean you spit it out. If Mary is being asked for the answer, you let Mary have her say. And these kids have wonderful talents, but they couldn't possibly affect and accomplish what they're trying to do without each other. And so I hope when they close the book, they just have sort of a warm friendship with the characters. And from everything that my readers write me, that's the case. I mean, they fall in love with the characters. They think of them as family, and they really work. There are little subtle messages throughout the books, and they work to be better people, I hope.
I want to talk to you about being in a band in just a moment. But for what age group are these novels intended?
Well, one would they were intended for middle grade, Dan, but they slowly seeped into elementary school as well. And then, for reasons I won't go into, we did a big survey about 8 or 9 years ago, and it turned out that half of all our sales, which are in the millions, are bought by adults for their own reading, because they love seeing what it's like behind Disney After Dark. And I've had this wonderful opportunity 30 times to go in there, and they're reading it for one reason, which is what are all the hidden secrets behind the walls? And the kids are reading it for the hijinks and the adventure. So it's a fun cross sale.
So you mentioned being in a band, and this band is made up of well-known authors. Is the band still doing its thing?
It is. We haven't played in over a year, but that's kind of regular for us. It's Stephen King, Amy Tan, Scott Turow, Mitch Albom, Dave Barry, me, Greg Iles, Roy Blunt Jr. We are the worst band, Dan, you have ever heard, but we have, over the years, we've raised $3.5 million for nonprofits. We have such a great time on stage. You just have to come with earplugs so that you don't actually have to listen to us.
Ridley, there's a question I like to ask authors of fiction, and it's this. If you could spend a day in real life with one of the characters from this novel, who would it be and why?
Wow. I love that question. I think I would love to spend a lunch with Walt Disney. He is, the more I study about him, he was just an amazing visionary. He went bankrupt 3 times. He was absolutely focused on making a place for all of us to escape for a couple hours and forget all our troubles and just enjoy our imaginations. And I live in my imagination. I write 6 to 8 hours every day because I write for adults and children. And not that we would be like-minded, but I think I could learn a lot from Walt Disney. That would be a real thrill. And of course, I grew up, I don't know, Dan, if you did, but I grew up with those Sunday night Walt Disney Wonderful World of Color, and he would come on, and he just felt like an uncle from the time I was about 7 years old. So I think that would be my choice.
So what's next for you?
I have another inheritance, the final inheritance, coming out next year. And Disney has asked me to write a series for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders, which has been a real challenge, and I really love it. Again, a lot of imagination, a bunch of illustrations. I'm going to write 6 of them. They're called Magical Map, and they will be coming out next year about the same time as the final inheritance.
Well, this book is The Kingdom Keeper's Inheritance, Villain's Realm, Book 2 by Ridley Pearson. Ridley, thank you for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Appreciate it.
Now, if you'd like to purchase Kingdom Keeper's Inheritance, Villain's Realm, Book 2, I've placed a link for you in the description below. Well, thank you for watching this edition of the Kids Bookshelf. And if you'd like to see more videos about children's books and their authors, be sure to subscribe, like, and click on the bell to be notified about future programs. And if you're interested in books for young adult and older readers, be sure to check out my Some Books Considered channel. You'll find a link to that below as well. I'm Dan Skinner. Until next time, keep sharing the gift of reading.